Streaming services are on the rise, and brick-and-mortar video stores are a thing of the past. We have lost that experience of wandering the aisles and stumbling upon a film we've never heard of. We have replaced the familiar face behind the video store counter with an algorithm to recommend films. With more and more content available, it's harder to know what's worth watching and what might be a waste of your time. There are many hidden gems out there waiting to be discovered, and we want to help you find them. This is Trailer Rewind, a podcast where we discuss and review recently forgotten or overlooked films that are now available to stream at home. Hey Trailer Rewind fans, it's the beginning of a new season and we're doing something different again. This season of Trailer Rewind, I'm bringing on different guests for each of our shows, and today I snagged one of my fellow film board members. I've got Tommy with me here today, and we're going to discuss Villains.
This is a hell of a predicament we found ourselves in. I used to be a salesman. I could read people. Now, I'd like to take a stab at selling you. Judging by the broke-down car and the sorry state of my front door, I'd say both of you are on the lam.
Everybody get down!
Next stop, Florida! How'd I do?
That was amazing. I feel like I might be able to read people just like that. I'm gonna try right now. Your clothes look expensive, and this is a pretty house. But you know what I think the most telling thing about you is?
Come on, baby, there's nothing down here.
It's the little girl you got chained up in the basement.
We're taking her with us. All right, you're free. Come with us.
This was Andy's pick from August 24th, 2019. This script was on the Blacklist in 2016. Now, Tommy, you know about the Blacklist, right?
I do. I love the Blacklist.
What can you tell us about the Blacklist?
The Blacklist is something that agencies, I believe it came from agencies, someone like CAA. They started putting out a independent list of all of the favorite unproduced scripts. So scripts that hadn't been produced or necessarily bought, but that everyone loved. So some of these would be sample scripts. Some of these would have put people really on a map, but it would rank through, and it wasn't necessarily would make the best movie, but it was the one that they enjoyed the most. You'd be able to see how many studio executives or agents voted for each one, and it would put them in a list from top to bottom.
So again, there's something that's solid about a script on the Blacklist, and some of them become very successful films. Some of them may become films, and again, maybe it was a better script than an executed film. And so that was something that I found intriguing about this one. We're going to be talking about.
Some of them really end up just as calling cards.
Yes, exactly.
They allowed you to then write other scripts.
Yes, exactly. Yeah. However, this one actually became a film. So it was Blacklist in 2016. One of the things that Andy said he really was intrigued by is that he loves Kira Sedgwick, and the horror/comedy aspect of it reminded him of something like, and I don't know where he got this from, but he said it's sort of like Don't Breathe, but with comedy elements to it. And I thought,
I completely agree. I really like Don't Breathe, and that is not a bad example. That's great.
Okay. All right. And then Pete said he loved Bill Skarsgård and Jeffrey Donovan, and he said those are two really solid reasons to see this. So we've got a Blacklist script, we've got recognizable names and faces in this, so all good reasons to give this thing a shot. So today is September 13th, and Villains is available right now on Hulu and Hoopla. So coming from the Blacklist, this got
Hoopla. Wait, Hoopla. What's Hoopla?
Oh, you don't. It's right. You haven't been here before. Hoopla
I'm sorry.
It's a free streaming service.
Is this like just a film festival you throw in your own basement?
No. If you have, depending on your library, your public library, it is a video streaming service that libraries can subscribe to. So basically, I can go to my public library, I log into Hoopla, and it asks for my library card number and what library system, and then I get access to films. So you can
that's
check out
wonderful. Okay.
So you may want to check out if you have a library card.
100%.
There you go. So this one, Villains started playing at festivals in the early part of 2019, starting with the South by Southwest Festival in March. The trailer indicated that it was going to be released into theaters in September 2019. And IMDb said September 20th, 2019 was the release date, but I couldn't find any box office information about the theatrical release to confirm this. So I have no idea if it actually did go into theaters or not, but I do know that it was available digitally on December 13th, 2019, and physical format media Blu-ray DVD on December 20th, 2019, just in time for the holidays, I guess.
Such a holiday film.
Yes.
Nothing says holiday films like a ceramic baby. Spoiler alert, sorry. I shouldn't.
That's okay, because it's a quirky movie, but I mean the basic idea is that we've got lovers on the run. Their car dies. They go into a house looking for a new set of wheels to continue their road trip, and the house they go into has this really dark secret to it. But we've got these really friendly, sweet as pie homeowners that are going to do anything to protect that secret. So we've got, I think Andy touched on it in the trailer, is that it has that horror and comedy aspect to it. One thing that stuck out to me at the very beginning of this is it reminded me very much of Pulp Fiction right from the get-go, because you've got these two young criminals saying, "I love you," and then we go right into a robbery.
Oh, right.
And then so we've got these quirky lovers on the run, but it is not Pulp Fiction. It's not, because we've got them walking in with, they've got masks on like a pigeon and a unicorn. So we've
silly
got
masks.
Silly masks. So we've got this goofiness to it. So that's, this is an odd film. Who do you think this film is for? Overall, what type of person do you think is going to be drawn to this type of movie?
Well, I can definitely say me.
Okay.
Because I have a weird, as I screamed about Don't Breathe when you brought up that, Andy brought up that, I have a really weird love. Well, number one, I have a love of location films, meaning like a contained location.
Okay.
Get to a place and then really maximize your time in there. I've gone on record of being a huge fan of the movie Devil, which takes place in an elevator, and I think it's astounding. I love it. And I'm also a big fan of home invasions gone wrong. It's usually found in horror, like The Collector, like the aforementioned Don't Breathe. But then it also the whole movie doesn't have to take place there. For instance, Blue Velvet. Kyle MacLachlan breaks into the wrong house and hides in the wrong closet in this suburban kind of wonderful scenario, uncovering the darkness that can be all around you all the time. When you're just driving down a suburban neighborhood, you can be like, yep, maybe there's something horrific going on in there. So I love that push-pull of a dark comedy. I like it not knowing where their motivations are coming from.
Yes.
Whether if they are insane, whether if they are non-empathetic, something like that. There's a lot of fun for that. And then also it lets your villains be more interesting, and it lets your protagonists not be Mary Sue's, meaning these perfect kind of characters. Everyone can be flawed or dumb or interesting, and it just lets dialogue fly in that way. It becomes a character piece, even though there's such strong plot. The end.
So a lot of the examples you mentioned are pretty dark films. This one has dark elements to it, but overall, I felt like this balanced that line between the sort of the dark comedy, but leaning into the comedy quite a bit more in this one. I mean, there's a lot of laughs in this. I think it's much lighter in tone. I didn't feel like I had watched a horror movie or an intense thriller. Although it has those elements, there was something very much. And maybe it's because they're on their way to Florida. It's like there's sunshine that's there. There's bright colors. Even in the house, we don't have a dark, foreboding environment.
No, it's not an abandoned barn.
Right.
It's not. No, you're exactly right. It's almost like an invitation into David Lynch for me, but via Coen brothers. It's this sort of, it's almost like for people that aren't quite ready for how much, because David Lynch films can be hysterical.
Yes.
But then can have these crazy tone shifts and stuff. So it's almost like someone that wanted to make an accessible David Lynch film, maybe.
Okay. No, okay. That I think gives our listeners a sense of what type of film this is, sort of the genre, if it's going to be something that is treading in familiar turf for them. But overall, in terms of quality, how would you rate or rank this film? Is this one that you highly recommend to somebody? Where would you, on Tommy's scale of rating movies, where would you put this one?
You mean on an actual ranking, or why I feel the way, or both?
Or both? Even.
Oh,
yes.
This is unprecedented. Or you want me to just sort of sing something? Okay. This is the fact that it's a contained location piece always will make it. There's contained location pieces, submarine films, and courtroom thrillers. I have made clear that those are ones, even if it's bad, it's pretty good. It's like Sex Pizza. It's still pretty good no matter how it is. And I thought that this film, it surprised me. I thought I had my arms around it because like the opening is Tarantino light, just not that clever, but clever enough. I liked the car wash scene that we will get into. I liked the characterization. And then when Jeffrey Donovan shows up, woof, the entire movie just lights up. So I think it's a very nice, small film in the way that we don't get the chance to make a lot and studios have absolutely no interest in. So out of, let's say, 5 Tommies, I would give it like 3.5 Tommies. I was captivated and I loved the acting, and yeah, maybe 3.75 Tommies.
Wow. Okay. So I wasn't quite as high on the scale with that one.
Understandable.
This one ended up near the bottom-ish part of my flick chart, which isn't like a horrible place to be, but what's very interesting is it ended just below my flick chart, just below August's Film Board film, or was that July when you guys did Project Power? It ended up right in the same, because I felt like it's
which I was a weird fan of. I was the biggest fan of the group.
So it's a film that it's very competently done. It does everything. It just didn't do anything extra for me, and that's why I ended up at 2.5 stars. And now maybe you'll talk me into a different range on that when we get there. But I feel like there's untapped potential in here from what I'm expecting out of it, and we can get
untapped potential is a great thing to bring up. And again, I brought up the idea of a contained tension piece as a kryptonite for me,
right?
Not as it's like a blind spot. So that's
sure. Okay. Well, over on Letterboxd, this actually has an average review of 3.18 on a scale of 5, based on 8,000, nearly 9,000 reviews. So a lot of people seeing it over there. Over at IMDb, Pete will always tread out this 6-star cut point. This is actually 6.2 based on out of 10 on 6,700 reviews. So it's a film that's not getting a lot of reviews out there, but it seems like overall average, it's landing right in that sweet spot of it's not really low, but it's right there in the middle ground, which I think both of us agree it's right. It's worth checking out. So listeners, if you think this is your kind of film and you don't want anything spoiled, this is your chance to pause the podcast and go check out Villains on Hulu or Hoopla.
We'll wait. We can see you. No need to say that.
No, but it's fun. Okay. All right. So, Tommy, now that people that are still with us are the ones that want to hear about this and get in depth.
I've been holding my breath this entire time. Okay. This
All
is
right.
rough.
So there's so much. It's interesting because you mentioned a couple things early on. You talked about the car wash thing, and that was something that stuck out to me. So we talked about our Tarantino opening with the robbery. Then they're on the road, they run out of gas. They're our heroes are like stuck. They're in the middle of nowhere. They haven't seen anything for a while, and our I guess for lack of a better term, our hero is stressed out, and his girlfriend's going to help soothe him a little bit. And she says he needs a car wash, and it was the most bizarre thing I've seen, but I loved the look of that.
Yeah.
Right? Okay. So what made that stand out?
She's using her hair as almost like wipers when you go through a car wash.
Right. Yes. So, she's running her hair across his face, but then what we get is this like POV shot from him looking up at her with the hair just framing and the sunlight sort of just creating this radiant glow. And I'm thinking, she does not have that much hair. There's no way she doesn't have that much hair, but it looks great. And it creates that sense of like,
I think
peace and calm.
It makes him feel like she has that much hair.
Yes. Oh,
like there's something very dreamy. It reminded me of nicely lit shots under blankets.
Yes.
Or not blankets, but sheets in a bed with two people staring at each other.
Yes.
It has that same kind of calming effect.
Yes, they're isolated from the world. The world's blacked out. It's just the two of them with this warm
nice
glow
yes.
around them. And it really gives us that connection with these two. It gives us a reason to, you sort of have to have that save the cat moment, right? Of like, they're horrible people. They knocked off a convenience store and they're on the road. Why do we care about these people? Well, they care about each other. We get it inside of their relationship. So it's like, okay, she's, she wants him to be successful. She wants these things for him. And so she's going to do what she can to calm him down. She's not the nag of a girlfriend of like, why aren't you good enough? Why don't you do all these things? She's very supportive. We don't see that. We have a more functional relationship with these two. And that moment there gave us that. And
inversely, he's not the, come on, we got to do this. He flips out. She knows how to. It reminded me a lot of one of my favorite movies, Black Snake Moan, when the character played by Justin Timberlake is a very masculine character, but suffers from crippling anxiety. And it takes the woman in that movie, Magoo, to, I'm not fast with these things, to calm him down. She has like these little ways to calm him down. So we take the hyper masculine and take it down. And we take the, like you said, what has been horribly used in film, the traditional nag or the killjoy of the feminine part, and instead uses it. She keeps saying that he needs a boost.
Right.
A boost. It's neat. And it really was after I was a little bit underwhelmed because I knew what it was trying to do at the gas station.
Okay. Yes.
This made the movie, I was like, oh, I care about these people. And they're kind of dumb, but now I think you said it perfectly. Their love for each other makes you love them, and that's a non-traditional save the cat.
Yes,
which is great.
This so there's a scene probably about midway through the film, but to me it perfectly captures their relationship, sort of their dynamic. Because once we're on the road, their car runs out of gas, they end up going to the house. Then we don't get that many moments with just them. It's about the interplay between our two couples. So there's one scene where they're sort of tied up, captive in the basement, and they have a little conversation about the business that I think is a great example of their relationship and who they are.
I've told you 100 times, the business model, it's flawless, okay? The cost of goods are zero. Every day we wake up, we roll out of bed, and we just hit the shore, scoop up a day's worth of merchandise, and then we sell them. I'm talking nice, shiny shells, some different colors, maybe some skipping rocks. It's pure profit, Jules.
Oh, I get that, baby, I do. I'm just saying what happens when we get too big. And then we have to hire somebody. And then it's not going to be pure profit anymore because we're going to be paying the new shelf finder. Could bleed us dry.
But what if we give the shelf finder like a chunk of the company? A small chunk, like equity, right? Every big business starts with equity.
So Tommy, what I love about this clip is I think you you get it too. It's this there's something unique about them. And I guess we get it from the robbery at the beginning. They're not that bright.
Right.
But they have this dream. And to me, this whole description of we just go along the beach and we just scoop up the shells. And I'm like, that's like the worst business plan ever, right?
It's maddening, and yet it's not maddening in the film. I generally hate characters like that. But for some reason, again, I really think it will always come down to the love and respect that they have for each other. There's not one dumb, there's not one smart, there's nothing mean about them. They both care about each other so much, and they just feel like they're optimistic idiots. And there's something very captivating about that, because we don't get a lot of that. We get a lot of what happens in a lot of films, especially in comedies. I'm thinking of all the Will Ferrell, all the stuff. We get overly confident idiots.
Yes.
And there's no reason that they should be confident. But really nice or optimistic idiots, that's an undertapped market. And there's something very sweet about that.
There is the sweetness about, and I guess it's for lack of a better term, the purity of their relationship, that it's very straightforward. They love each other. They care about each other. They lead a simple life. They're robbing convenience stores and gas stations to get enough money to get to Florida so they can start their business. It's not, that's
they don't want to hurt. They don't want to hurt anybody.
No, they don't want to hurt anybody. And so the fact that when they, are in this house, just trying to get a car, and then they stumble across the deep dark secret of Sweetie Pie chained up in the basement, throws things for a loop, right?
Yeah.
So that begins the whole shift of the movie of, okay, now what happens when our optimistic idiots are confronted with something really dark and sinister?
And they have to really make a choice.
Yes, exactly. And that's sort of the other piece that it felt like really consistent for me, that, okay, it's not that, okay, great, there's a girl that's tied up here, but we've got our deal. We've got to hit the road. We've got the cops after her. Clearly she's fine. We can just leave her. She'll be fine. And we get out of here. No, they've got to save Sweetie Pie. Right. So that's what starts things going with our conflict.
Right. Jules in particular. Mickey is ready to bolt.
Right.
Mickey is more pragmatic, but Jules, as is revealed in dialogue, sees herself.
Yes, yeah, that's true. Yes, we do get that. So then, so they discover Sweetie Pie down in there. They are going to figure out how to free her. They walk upstairs, and that's when they discover that the homeowners have returned. And that's where we get our very interesting sort of contrast to our young idiots. We've got the darker, more sinister couple who live in what, as I said, it's like this perfect house, right? I mean, everything looks very nice, well put together, and we've got this contrast between the young, optimistic idiots, as I will call them, and our more mature, seasoned psychopaths. Is that what we should call them?
Yeah,
right. And that begins. I mean, there's not, in terms of story, there's not a lot that goes on other than lots of conversations between these two couples, interspersed with attempts from Mickey and Jules to get out of there. That's basically what happens. We've got this conflict between, we need to get out of here, and the our other two George and Gloria, thank you. George and Gloria, who are...
I 100% have IMDb up. Me. Like I just had that noun. I haven't gotten a word or a name right in the history of this podcast, so don't worry.
So they've got to keep these two, they've got to keep Jules and Mickey there. So that's the conflict of, we've got to get out of here. No, we've got to keep them here. And that's what's going to, the driving conflict of our story. But in between that, we've got lots of scenes between the two that we get to learn a little bit more about each of our couples. What I found interesting is that this darkness was hinted at earlier in the film. It stood out to me, and it's one of these choices that I felt like I didn't need it, because as Jules and Mickey are tearing through the house looking for the keys and all that, Mickey tosses a video camera. Right. And it just happens to land. And apparently when you throw a video camera, it can land in such a way that it will automatically start playing, showing this sinister footage of like some people that are tied up. And that was like this tip to the audience of maybe to try to create some dramatic irony or tension that there's something going on. But it's just a few minutes later when they discover Sweetie Pie.
It's so great that you bring that up, because when I was taking notes about the film, I wrote Chekhov's video camera. Why?
Yes.
I didn't need that. I would have rather those two couples slam into each other like a truck that you didn't see coming, instead of this weird, because you already kind of know that something's going to happen.
Right.
You know what I mean? Just because that we live in a world where films exist. And so I would have loved more of because the couple seems so beautiful in the beginning, meaning Jeffrey Donovan and Kira Sedgwick. Yes. I would have rather not have that camera gun under the desk.
Right. Yes. Exactly.
Just holding over us. I didn't understand. I didn't understand what it was needed, but it made me fascinated. I would love an alternate me to be able to see the movie without that, and to see if it worked. Or if that does help, like prime the pump or something. I'm really interested. I'm glad you brought that up, because I made a very specific note about it. Yeah.
Yeah. Because we then we're in the basement, and that's where, we sort of get the jump scare of Jules on the tricycle and then discovering Sweetie Pie. And I already knew that they were going to be finding something sinister down there, because the video camera tipped that to us. And I'd rather have the power of that in the basement, rather than, you didn't need to give me the breadcrumbs. There was enough going on. They needed to be confident in their abilities as filmmakers to not have to give us those pieces.
I agree. Yeah.
That's one of those things where I'm like, no, your film's better than that. Trust your audience. You can let them hang there for a minute. You don't don't need to. The writing was good enough, the characters are good enough, the performance is good enough that I'm still engaged. They're still tearing through the house because I love just the fact that Jules and Mickey are in this beautiful, it's like a model home. I mean, everything's in its right place and all that, and they're just going through, like, Jules starts eating cereal, Estelle just dumps the bowl of cereal over, back onto the floor. They're tearing pages out of these nice coffee table books. I mean, they're appending drawers of stuff. There's not an attempt to just like, oh, we're going to not disturb things. They're just tearing things through. And to me, that's entertaining enough to see the way that they're going to treat this environment with disrespect. That's enough to keep me engaged. I could, watch them for several minutes doing it. I didn't need the video camera to create more tension, right?
There is one note that I made under it that might be why that is.
Okay.
Is it's telling you what happened to the original. Well, it depends on what you think. Do you believe that these sociopaths, that this is their house?
Oh, right. So
I don't. Stale cereal, weird. I mean, I believe this was almost either a model, literally you said a model home, a model home, or what we got was a glimpse of what our sociopaths did to the original owners.
Oh.
I don't think there's any reason to believe that they live here.
Really? I didn't even think about that.
I don't know.
I was wondering about the stale cereal because then also Mickey points out like the old television, like everything looks really nice, but the TV is, it's an old TV, so clearly you guys don't watch TV. And I hadn't thought about the fact that it wasn't.
There's a chance that they did a home invasion, just like our protagonist did a home invasion, but they knew what they were doing and just got there first. And so that would be the reason that I think that they would do that, is to tell you, to explain that. Okay. That none of these people belong in this house.
Okay, that's
because there's nothing in the house that really connects. The only thing that really connects that I remember to the sociopaths is the chain, and they brought the chain and tied up Sweetie Pie. I mean, there's nothing else that makes sense for that age of a couple.
Yeah.
The TV you just brought up. I mean, it's just, it doesn't look like it. Yeah.
Well, they've been living there for a while, clearly, and they do have a car, because the only other thing that I would point to say they reside there is up in the baby's room. They've got the letters for Ethan's name. It says Ethan on the wall. She's put.
Ooh, that hurts my argument quite a bit. You're exactly right.
But I will also say they are just odd enough that I could see George saying, okay, how do I help keep Gloria even keeled? Let her have this room. We will set up the baby room. House. I don't know. Well, let's talk about George and Gloria, because there's a scene when our home break-in couple have their confrontation with our residents here, George and Gloria, and they sit down to have a conversation about what's going on. And this is, and you mentioned in the intro, sort of this Coen brothers and Lynchian aspects of it. And I think it's something that Jeffrey Donovan does really well. He's got a slight Southern gentleman accent and just a little bit of very, very genteel. And there's this great clip where he's going to try to sell our Mickey and Jules on how he sees things.
Now, about that car you mentioned. Suppose you two stole it from us. We might, for one reason or another, not report that incident for some time. On the other hand, should you choose to take my daughter with you, we'd be forced to call the police in a much more timely manner. Don't sit here and tell me you don't wish you never went down those stairs. How nice it would have been to find the keys sitting by the front door and have been on your way. Am I right? That's the chance I'm giving you right now. That's what I'm trying to sell you. How'd I do?
So George has just made his case on that, but as this language that he's using, there's something, and that's what I love about Jeffrey Donovan in this, is that he can be so like menacing, but while being polite at the same time. And it really firmly establishes very early on, once we meet George and Gloria, a different tone for them, because we've got Mickey and Jules as like, they're goofball millennial, drug addicts. But we've got our more genteel, refined, maybe Gen X, older Gen X couple that's got an established life and routine, and there's a threat to that. And it's that dynamic for me that really is the strength of the movie, but it is also a source of like my my biggest issues and challenges with the film, because they're going to be battling it out back and forth, right? Trying to get the upper hand on one versus the other. And when we have that dynamic, I always ask myself, by the time I get to the end, who's being punished, who's being rewarded, and why? Is there a reason that the characters that survive are the survivors? Are there a reason that the characters that don't survive do they have fatal flaws? And I don't see that here, so I can't see an overriding logic to why things end the way they do. But I love the interplay between sort of the surface level normalcy with the really dark psychosis beneath it, and contrasted with the very, crazy younger couple that have the more pure and I think sweet relationship beneath it. Because there's a darkness to George and Gloria once we start to learn their story, and we get it broken out through several of the scenes of when, even early on, when Mickey is sort of bound and Gloria is telling their story, and she talks about like their first, I don't know if it's their first date, but when George comes and then, meets her family, and you can see in the photo, like this old Polaroid, there's like a body on the, on the bed or something, like, oh, visited Daddy. And it's like, okay, that's probably Daddy dead there on the, there's something really dark. We don't get a lot of explanation of what or why, but just this overriding sinisterness.
Right.
That's why I wanted to know a little bit more about them. I mean, clearly, they can't have children. That's why we've got Ethan. That's why they abducted Sweetie Pie. We learned during the dinner scene that, they did have Sweetie Pie as this surrogate child, but then, as George said, it became a reminder of something they couldn't have, and so then they needed to get rid of her, and he was going to be merciful by just keeping her chained up in the basement. I don't know how much I buy that or how well that works for me, because that's one of, like, okay, you've got this child. What is the reason why it didn't work? Was it because Sweetie Pie kept getting older, and Gloria wanted, like, the infant all the time, and she wanted to be that type of mother, and she didn't want to deal with a kid that's going to start becoming an adolescent? That I don't know, and that's because George is very deceitful. At that dinner scene, when he basically sells them on the story of like, no, we're gonna let you go, we're not gonna kill you. He lays out this really compelling, very compelling sales pitch on why that's the case, and then we quickly learn, oh, no, that's not the case at all. They're going to drug them and kill them. That's the end of it. So I never know with George as far as when he's selling me something or when I've actually got the true story out of him. And that's my challenge with him, because I don't know. And maybe that's why he doesn't make it at the end. Again, when it comes to who survives and who doesn't, I mean, we can spoil this and say, okay, Sweetie Pie and Jules are the ones that make it to the end. Why them, and why do the other three have to die? I mean, this is your genre a little bit when we get into the horror type thing of like who survives and doesn't. What did you feel anything that it made sense why those two are the ones that survive and the other three are basically punished for their behaviors by being killed by the end of the film?
A little bit. It's a flawed logic, but in a way that this movie lives in ambiguity, which I really liked.
Okay.
I was a really big fan of that. It's the collision of two couples, or if we want to enlarge it, say family. No, let's say couples. Two couples trying to take shortcuts to make their American dream come true.
Okay.
Our protagonists are willing to rob a gas station. In no way do you ever feel like they would ever hurt anyone in the entire world.
Right.
When presented, so I'm just going to do this half first. When presented with finally a moral dilemma, Sweetie Pie in the basement, Mickey, played by Skarsgård, is more pragmatic, as I said before, and says, no, we've got to keep going. We have our dream. That's all that's important, is we have to achieve our dream. And she says, largely because of what she's gone through in the past, as is revealed, says, no, this is what derails it. This is the speed bump that has been thrown in our way. Whereas Jeffrey Donovan and Kira Sedgwick, she's like legit insane.
Yes.
But they are an incredibly loving couple, again, willing to do anything it takes to achieve a dream. He is willing to pretend that a ceramic doll is a baby. He is willing to chain up a child. Well, first kidnap a child. And then when that doesn't work, he doesn't want to kill her. But I mean, chaining up a child in a dirty basement that's what a creep would think is a better way to do it.
Right.
And so that's what I think the skewed kind of rewarding and punishing thing is. There are kind of the two most innocent people and the most virtuous are Sweetie Pie because she doesn't know any better, and Jules, who she's the reason that it all got derailed.
Right. Okay.
I mean, Jeffrey Donovan gave them the sales pitch is, we will not turn you in. And I believe that first sales pitch, I 100% believe it because they have a child chained in their basement. If you just steal the car and not the girl, then you were good. I believe that it all could have ended and this movie could have been a short. But Jules said no.
Right.
Even when we're breaking the law to achieve our dreams, there are certain lines that can't be crossed. Kira Sedgwick is too insane to know what those lines are, in the way that she's not even accepting the death of her husband at the end. Right. She's now flipped into a new fantasy. Jeffrey takes the punishment for crossing the line to achieve his wife's dream and his family's dream. And Mickey and Skarsgård is punished because he was willing to let lines be crossed.
Okay.
That's just a possibility.
No, that makes sense because we do get, when Jules is down there in the basement alone with Sweetie Pie, she tells that story of waiting for the parents to come home and the parents never come home. We never find out why. Basically she and her sister watched cartoons and ate cereal, and then after 7 days the cereal ran out, and that's did something tragic happen to them? Were they abandoned? We have no idea, but she knows basically what that's like to be left on your own with nobody to take care of you is what I took from. Right.
That brings the stale cereal in a way that I never just connected until just now into an interesting, she's the one that eats and spits out the cereal. That's just like a little, maybe nice little drop of like getting her in that frame of mind.
Yes.
Cereal gone bad. To not enough food to then child in the basement. That could have started her subconsciously could have started. That's interesting.
Oh, yeah. I mean, there are those little moments. Like I said, there's parts of this that work really, really well.
Yeah.
And I think you've made a compelling case with our rewards and punishment, but it's something that, I always look for that bigger payoff of like, what
it is not a straight line at all. And I don't think anyone really learns anything.
No, and that's what I'm always hoping for as I watch a film. Like, you're presenting me with this story, there's some type of moral judgment that's being passed. Tell me what your reason is. It's not there. And I would say this isn't that type of film. This is a film that's there to entertain, to have fun. It will make choices that are quirky and fun and entertaining, to make us laugh, to creep us out a little bit. I think that's probably what the intent was. And I would say it even goes back to what you said about about films on the Blacklist, of sort of, it's a calling card. And I think that's, what I would see this film as it's a small film. It's, single location. They shoot it in we've got the convenience store, gas station. We're on the road in the car. And then the vast majority of it is in that house.
It's really three big setups.
Yes. That's it. So that's, small production, little indie film. This is what we can do. We can do suspense. We can make you laugh. I can get some good performances, and I can direct some recognizable faces and get good performances out of them. So I'd say this is, definitely a calling card film, because I'm trying to think of, if I was a much younger man, like high school, discovering a film like this because of some of the cool shots, just some of the interesting choices.
I would have flipped for it. In college, I would have been like, everyone has to sit down and watch this movie. Because I was doing that with movies. Granted, I lucked out in liking movies like Heavenly Creatures and stuff. Like, people weren't like that have stood this test of time. This one is a little more the nicest way to say shallow. In that, I love what you've brought up is that no one learns anything. At most, everyone learns who they are.
Okay.
For real. Yes. Jules learns that it's that there are certain things she's going to step down on. Skarsgård learns that he's willing to sacrifice himself for his girl. Jeffrey Donovan, it goes down the line. And Kira Sedgwick doesn't learn anything. She just gets her new psychosis. Really, she just updates.
Yes.
She switches
Yes.
the plot that's
Right.
going on in her head.
Yes.
She almost like has the sad, like the creepiest, happiest ending. Sort of.
Totally disconnected from reality. Yes.
Totally disconnected.
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. There are some, there are great sequences, moments in this film. I think the dinner works really, really well. And that kicks off sort of an odd, I don't know, shift in the film, because we've got a police officer that shows up, which I was not expecting at all in this film. I figured we're going to keep it here. But
Right.
it's at the perfect point of like, how do we ratchet up the tension more? Now we've got the outside threat of the officer that comes into the house and created some really compelling suspense, because whenever a character's life is threatened, I'm thinking, okay, which way could this go? Because the cop could either discover things and that takes the story in one direction, or they kill him and it goes in a completely different direction. Are two couples going to team up against the cop? And so I had no idea which way this was going to possibly play out, which was a lot of fun for me. So when George escorts the cop into the house, into the dining room, and Mickey and Jules are gone, I thought, okay, where are they? And I love what happened to them, because we know they're drugged up. They're drugged out of their mind on whatever pills that Gloria and George found. So they're like off in like the weight room or whatever.
Right.
And I just it speaks to, I guess, the quirkiness of the characters of they're drugged up. How can they get back on their feet? I don't know. As she says, I need a boost. So I'm going to go start
more drugs,
more coke, right? And her solution for getting, because Mickey's completely out cold. So how is she going to force him to snort cocaine? That was just, I love that whole sequence. I thought, this is fun. It's balancing that lightness and doing something that I haven't seen before of, I'm waking up groggy. Okay, splash cold water on my face. No, I'll just do some more coke, and that'll give me the energy I need to escape from these lunatics.
Right. Well, that was my favorite comedic part, was the first boost when she's saying, you need a boost, you need a boost. And he takes a huge bump and then it's shot from above. And he goes, yeah, gas. Like he literally comes up with the right choice. He did need the boost. That was my favorite comedic part of the movie.
Yes, I think that's the, again, not the brightest pair necessarily. Right. Yes, it's moments like that I enjoyed this film a lot. Like I said, I had issues, but I don't know. I'm trying to think on rewatch value. Yes, as a much younger man, I would have definitely watched over and over and over again for the thrills and laughter. But I'm a much older man wanting something more serious. I don't know.
Well, but I think we've also seen some of this stuff, if you are a well-watched person, comes off as blank light. As we've already sort of said, some of it is Tarantino light, some of it is David Lynch light. And maybe the nicer way to say it is not light, but accessible.
Yes.
And that's cool. But if you're an enormous Coen Brothers and Lynch fan like I am, there's just not as much to hang on to.
Right. Yes.
And so you kind of want all of the things that I think you are saying that you wish went deeper or longer or scarier, or you learned more. There's really none of that. That's it's the kind of movie that I really enjoyed. And then because I watched it 4 or 5 days ago, if I'm being completely honest, I went to Wikipedia for a quick plot refresher.
Yeah.
Because I was losing parts of it. Because it just lit up the college part of me. It lit up I like these kind of things that cinema can do, but it's not like there's much to think about in the story.
Right.
Exactly. So I think we're both on the same page as far as that's concerned.
No, and I like how they, we do get our little resolution. So at the end, and again, this is the artistry that I see in it, because we've got our beginning. We get several times like the old like home movie footage type of 8mm of the beach, and so then we get that, we see Jules and Sweetie Pie living the dream, right? They're on the beach. They've got Mickey's shell shop. They're selling the shells to make a living or whatever. How long are they going to be able to sustain that? Doesn't matter, because it's almost like fairy tale now.
Right,
it's like,
and I'm not convinced that that's even real.
Right.
100%. That's still the fantasy
of what's going on. And
I think it's equal parts.
Okay.
Yeah. Because making a living selling shells is so dumb. And now you just now like what was going to solve it? Add a 8-year-old.
Yes.
I think it gives us a nice out.
Yes.
But the fact that they filmed it in 8mm, which we've been seeing kind of fantasy-ish little things. I'm not convinced that that's exactly what happened, but it's a nice way to end the film.
Yes. Okay. No, it's one that, I'm this is what, happens on Trailer Rewind. We find these and sometimes they're forgettable. I'm glad I watched it because there was something enjoyable to be gained from it, but is it a classic I'm going to revisit? Yeah, probably not. I'll probably by this time next year I'll be thinking, yeah, I saw it, but I won't be able to recall much out of it. But it did entertain. And I think that's, makes it worth at least checking out when you're scrolling through, like, I need something, I'm looking for something different. This will give you that. And like I said, it's not so intense of the dark thriller. It is something lighter. It's something and it ends on, an optimistic ending. So it's not one where you're like, oh, humanity's horrible and people are monsters. Right. This is just great. There are good people. And that's what I like about Jules. She is that light. And then we do get what I did like in the end is as Mickey's dying, we get that car wash moment. Again, we get the callback to that of him being at peace. Again there at the end. So there's, again, a lot of smart choices. The things they know how to do it and they know how to do it well.
And I will definitely watch this again. I'm currently writing a horror comedy. Or comedy horror, however you want to say that. And this film I want to sort of forget about and then come back to. The first part will probably be pretty easy because I think that they really handle tone shifts very well. It never gets so goofy that it's like, wait, no, I don't. I always liked both sides, the goofy and the tension.
Yes,
the sinister and the charming. I thought they handled that really well. I think a lot of it goes to the actors. Jeffrey Donovan is just spectacular in this movie.
For me, the best example of that shift. For me, comes from Kira Sedgwick when they're at dinner. We've already had the moment where Jules was threatening to drop Ethan, the ceramic baby doll, and Gloria shoots. Jules, out of reflex, or intentionally, it's hard to say, but she drops him. Ethan dies, and then we're at the dinner, and we get the whole story about how they're going to let them go and all of that, and then Gloria starts telling her story, and we learned the story of Ethan, of how she got Ethan. It was the last gift from her mother before her mother passed. And it was the one thing that for her to hold on to be the light when things get tough. This is her hope, all of this. And now Jules has taken that from her. Right. And you see, as Gloria's telling the story, you watch Mickey because he's eating. And then all of a sudden he just lets the food drop out of his mouth because he's thinking, this is not good.
We are targets. This is not the dinner that I was hoping for.
No, but it was that shift, and to see the realization and Kira Sedgwick just delivering that, I'm like, to me, I'm thinking, as she's reading it, it's moments like that I'm assuming are appealing to an actor of like, I get this monologue, I get this
interesting
for this character, because to me that moment was really the strength of that character. Told me everything I needed to know about her. It was a moment of transparency that it sort of explained a lot of reasons why she might be the way she is. Or what drives her? Why is she holding on to this ceramic baby? Because the rest of her life is crap, and she's got to have something, right?
Right.
Oh, but it's those pivots that are handled really, really well, and I'd say there are the shifts, but I didn't feel like I was being jerked one way to the other. It was able to transition smoothly. Right. I could be scared one moment in that basement, and I can be laughing later, and then I can be creeped out, and it is all, and the performances are even. It's that baseline that just the subtle shifts from one way to the other. I'd say see it for that. See it for the performances.
Agreed.
From everybody in this one.
I've really enjoyed this.
I've enjoyed it too. Well, for our listeners out there, I want to thank you for listening to this new season of Trailer Rewind. If anything that we said here entertained, educated, or even enraged you, we'd like you to tell people about this podcast. Whatever your podcast listening platform is, please share, rate, or write a short review. It helps other podcast listeners find us. And if you enjoy connecting with other film fans, you can become a member of our community on Discord. It's free, and there's always all kinds of interesting dialogue or debate to jump into. There's all kinds of stuff about Disney and Mulan people are talking about now. People are reviewing all kinds of movies, digging into their lists. There's always an interesting discussion over on Discord. We look forward to seeing you over there. And Tommy, it's been a pleasure. I hope we get to do another one of these sometime soon.
This was a lot of fun. It was really nice to be able to do one of these because I'm a big fan of the show and of myself.
All right, everybody.
And of you.
All right, everybody. Hondo.